exciting news. Okay, I have been waiting for this email. I have been waiting, like refreshing my email constantly, and I finally got my ticket to sign up for the vaccine. Man, it's been a process, and I think I have like a lot of reflections on how this process has been going, because I think the way that they've been allocating it within the hospitals, since we're frontline workers, we're the first people getting the vaccine, I think it's kind of just like a microcosm of issues and questions and considerations and stuff that will occur for when they're distributing the vaccine on a wider scale. At my hospital, they did a lottery system, and so basically it went in waves, and so the first wave was people who see patients in close proximity, basically. And you know, it's not the worst system, it's not the best system, and I think like different people have different thoughts on it. A lot of people, myself included, think that there are levels to being like frontline workers, right? Because I work in the emergency room, for example, and so like the emergency room, we see patients like totally undifferentiated. We'll go in and somebody will have like, I don't know, like will feel nauseous, and then later on they end up needing to go into the hospital. We do a COVID test on them and they're positive, and it's like we've been in there that whole time like not knowing that they were positive. So we basically have to treat every patient as though they have it. Whereas like other people who like maybe see people in clinic, or they see people once they're already admitted to the hospital, they've gotten a test back, they've gotten their COVID test back, and so they're able to prepare themselves. And like especially in the emergency department, like sometimes people will come in like in extremis, meaning like we need to start like giving them CPR or like putting a breathing tube in or like whatever. And in those cases, like we don't really even, like we just don't have the luxury of time a lot of the times to like always be as adequately prepared as we would if we were like in a more controlled setting. All of that to say, a lot of people think that, you know, like emergency medicine within the hospital, and then also people in the ICU should basically get the vaccine first. The way my hospital did it though was like basically like lottery to everyone. I was like a little bit frustrated about it at first, but I finally got my ticket. A lot of people have already gotten the vaccine, and I'm about to get mine tomorrow, so I can't wait.
Ooh, okay, so I'm scheduling it. There's like a lot of slots open. I'm trying to figure out which one. I'm gonna go today. Oh my God, what time should I go? What time should I go? Yeah.
It's happening. It's happening. You know, it's like starting to hit me, like the magnitude of this moment right now. Because like, I don't know, like y'all experienced 2020. It's been like a wild ride, right? And I never anticipated that that a vaccine would be ready this quickly. I was extremely skeptical of it at first, as probably some of you who are watching are. I talked to like a lot of people, including I have a cousin who's an infectious disease expert, and she has an MD, does infectious disease and has a PhD, and studies virology, is like one of the smartest people I know. And so I talked to her at length. Shout out Boguma, actually. She like has a blog and like talks about science stuff, and is just like a dope person. But she really walked me through it. I think really the other thing that just like ultimately made me feel more comfortable with it was any side effect with the vaccine, even the most serious ones that we have already seen, which are like anaphylaxis, where like your throat closes up and you have a very severe allergic reaction. We have treatments for that. You give epinephrine, or you can like give an airway. Like there are things that we can do. With COVID, in the worst cases, which I have now seen taking care of people, there are times there is nothing that we can do. Like when it goes south, you can put people on a breathing tube, but once we're starting to have to do things like put you on your stomach to try to use the part of your lung that's left that's working. Like people clotting off their limbs, bleeding into their lungs. I mean, it's like a catastrophe. And once your lungs really literally start turning to stone, which is what I saw happen with multiple patients, it is game over. Like there's no like treatment that we can give. And so ultimately, like for me, I was like, I've seen the damage that COVID can do. I've seen even young, healthy people get completely annihilated by this disease. And I was like, I just feel like I can't take that risk for myself. And I also, more importantly, don't want to give it to anybody that I love. And because of my job, I'm on the front line, I'm working with patients day in, day out, a lot of people with COVID, even though I just started my career. I was like, I just don't want, I don't like that risk. It makes me feel very guilty, for example, to like, for, you know, my partner who I'm with, like every day, he is like being put at risk, like because of my work. And so anything that can decrease my chance of getting it, decrease my chance of transmitting it, and also bring us towards the end of this nightmare of a pandemic is ultimately something that I think makes a lot of sense. I feel comfortable with the safety. I mean, I think we are in extenuating circumstances, and so that's kind of like how I came to my decision. I feel good about it.
Get your vaccine.
I don't like
Rest your arm. Okay, sit back.
I'm like excited to get it, but I'm also like, I remember that I hate.
That's understandable. Okay.
Yes.
Alright.
So you might be wondering, what exactly was in that injection? So this is going to be a little bit of a throwback to middle school biology, but what this vaccine is made of is called messenger RNA. And you might remember that mRNA is kind of like the instruction manual for your cells, for your genetic code to know what to make. And so this mRNA is encapsulated in a lipid, which is basically just a fatty substance that allows it to enter into cells. Once the mRNA is in the cell, it instructs it to create a spike protein, which you see on the outside of the actual coronavirus. And that's a trigger for the body to know, hey, I have a foreign invader in here. I need to create an army, also known as your immune system, to fight it. And so once this spike protein is created, your body starts mounting a response. What's important to know about this vaccine versus the traditional vaccines where we actually inject part of either a dead or an alive virus, in this case, we're just putting in the protein, which is a part of the virus, but none of it is actually pathogenic. Yet, the genius of it is that your body still sees it as a foreign invader and mounts a response just to the protein. It's almost like if they saw an approaching army and they just know it by the armor. And instead of actually bringing a real army, they're bringing just the shield. And you still mount a response just the same as if it was a real invader, as if it was the real virus. So now your body has an army of antibodies and T cells ready to fight, but it never actually got attacked. If in the future you do get attacked by the actual coronavirus, then you have an army standing by. ready to fight, ready to stop the negative effects that could have happened if you got the virus without having been vaccinated. They gave us this really robust packet of info about the vaccine. I've included it in here on quick speed. You can slow it down and read through it if you're interested. It's been about 30 minutes since I got the shot. I got the shot. And I feel fine. I don't even feel sore. And it didn't even hurt that much. So, I don't know. We'll see. Like, the flu shot hurt. Like, my arm was really sore after I got the flu shot, but it's not really sore on this yet, but I shouldn't speak too soon. Some of my co-residents who got it told me that they had like some like soreness. One of my co-residents said that she like felt like she had like muscle aches and like felt like kind of like ill, which can happen, especially when your body is mounting an immune response. So she just took some Tylenol and then she felt actually like totally better. So, and I know sometimes you can get fevers and like other things like that. So we'll see. So I just want to name a couple things that I think are really important to consider with this whole vaccine process. First of all, I think that there are a lot of communities who have had, quite frankly, a very fraught relationship with medicine, with science. Racism, eugenics, all of these things are very real aspects of medical history and they cannot be ignored. And so I think it absolutely makes sense that there are people, especially in Black and brown communities, who have harbored very healthy skepticism of this process and all processes. And I'm very vocal about this on Twitter and in my day-to-day life. The responsibility is on the medical community to mend those broken relationships. And that means transparency with the process. That means telling people exactly how the medical community has failed them and what they're doing actively now to repair the wrong that has been done. And I think all of these things are, it's an iterative process. It's never going to be 100% one and done, but it has to happen. And especially in this case of COVID, because as a healthcare professional, as a doctor, working in the emergency department and rotating in the ICU, I have seen the way that this disease ravages the body, and the worst, most catastrophic deaths that I have seen and witnessed have absolutely been in Black and brown communities. Poor people, people with other illnesses, those are the people who are suffering the most. And unfortunately, those happen to correspond to the groups that have been the worst treated by science, the worst treated by medicine. And so that's where we see a lot of hesitation. And unfortunately, it's the group that needs the vaccine the most that will likely feel understandably hesitant to take the vaccine. I don't take for granted at all that I am both a member of the Black community and a member of the healthcare community. That's why, I'm being very transparent with this process, that I've taken dose number 1 of the Pfizer vaccine. I will take dose number 2 in 3 weeks. And I just want to show that I am believing in this science, but I think that there is still a long road to go before people can feel totally free and safe in medicine. And that's sad. That is sad, but it has to be named. So I definitely want to acknowledge that this decision to get the vaccine is going to be a personal one for everyone. The purpose of this video is not to force one perspective down or anything, but I do want to be transparent. I think that it does come down to the simple fact that between the very real consequences that we've seen from COVID versus the
risks that are associated with vaccines, and there's always risks with any type of medical intervention. The risks of COVID far outweigh. The devastation from COVID far outweighs all of these things. And so I think that's just going to be something to take into account in your own personal calculus. And then also, I hope that the vaccine is made available to you, because right now we're having the conversation of who's going to feel comfortable taking it. But I am very eager to see, once we've moved past this phase of healthcare professionals getting vaccinated, what is it going to look like when it comes time for everyone else? What is it going to look like when it comes time for the community? How are we going to prioritize? How are we going to place a lens of equity on this process and make sure that those who are at highest risk, Black and brown communities, poor communities, those with pre-existing conditions, have access to this vaccine first? Because unfortunately, those communities oftentimes are not the ones who are prioritized. They're often the ones who are left behind, and that's how we've gotten into this position now. So I'm very, very keen to see what this process will look like and how we make sure that it's equitable and that it reaches the people that it needs to reach, and that we start seeing us turn the corner on this nightmare of a pandemic and all of the downstream effects that it's had. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I really appreciate it. I hope that this added some value, some perspective to your life in this really key moment in our history. Definitely don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification button underneath. Come back for more videos. I'll give you an update on how I'm feeling a little bit later after having gotten dose 1 of the vaccine. I'll give you another perspective after I get dose number 2. And I'll just continue to share my perspective as a healthcare professional working amidst the most serious pandemic that we have seen in our lifetime. It is really a wild time to be alive and to be doing this work, but I am grateful to be in the position that I am, as always. Thank you again. Mwah. Bye.